دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون و توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی صاحب توپ توی دروازه
اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نژاد فرصت برای کوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران. Welcome to the Bezan podcast. My name's Arya Allahverdi. Today we're going to be reviewing the Persian Gulf Pro League and all other domestic competitions in Iran, as well as the AFC Champions League. Today, to do so, I'm joined by my good friend Sina Saemian. How are you doing, my friend?
Arya, great to speak to you. Great to be on again. And we have a special guest today, don't we?
Yes, we've got a special guest, PGPL expert. We had you on earlier on in the year. Erfan, Hoseiny, how are you, my friend?
Hello, Arya. Hi, Sina. Yeah, thank you guys again for having me on again.
It's great.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, how are you guys doing?
It's great to have you on, Erfan. Always needed your insight in one of these episodes regarding domestic leagues. So it's good to have you on, and I appreciate you taking time to do so. Guys, as I mentioned, we are going to cover everything surrounding domestic football in Iran. We're going to start off straight into it. Before we do so, though, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, and also you can support our work on Patreon at patreon.com/goldbezan. We're also on other podcast platforms, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. So subscribe on there as well, and leave a like and rating as well. Appreciate it. Okay, so straight into it then. League champions for the Persian Gulf Pro League was Persepolis this season. Erfan, coming to you first. What was the season like for Persepolis? Obviously, they won it. Sepahan took it close for quite a good portion of the season. But overall, how would you sum up Persepolis' season?
Yeah, Persepolis, they had a very, very good season. They kind of fell off a bit at the start of the second half of the season, but Gol Mohammadi and his boys were able to pull it back. They had a fantastic end to the season. I think they won their last 10 games, and they didn't give anyone a chance to catch up to them. The only team, like you said, Sepahan, who gave them a good challenge. They dropped points to Malavan a few weeks before the end of the season, which ultimately cost them the title. They were leading before that. And Persepolis, I think one of the main factors in their success was the failure in the last season, because after they finished second last year, their management, or Darwish, who was their president, he made some really good signings, including Bayram and Georgi Gevlesiani, who's right now been called up for the Georgia national team, and then also Pualeganji, Said Sadeghi, and Lokadia, who left. But yeah, very, very good job by the Persepolis management there. We didn't really expect that. It's not something common in Iranian football, so it's good to see teams with good management.
Yeah, and Sina, of course, again, this is Persepolis' 15th title in their history. They are the most successful team. Is that right in the country? What do you make of that then? Obviously, they fought back quite well to beat Sepahan and get ahead of them. How do you make of it for the title winning season for Persepolis?
I think it's a great achievement by Gol Mohammadi. Of course, it's not his first league title as Persepolis manager, and I think this season in particular, and one thing that I want Erfan to kind of dig in a little bit more is the fact that the foreign managers in the league are of great quality compared to previous years. You look at the title challenges in Sepahan with Jose Moraes on the bench. Esteghlal having Ricardo Sá Pinto, and of course Director with Paco Gemes, who was probably the biggest surprise out of all of them, him coming up in or turning up in Iran. So it's a good achievement. It's a great achievement by Gul Mohammadi, but obviously having the best team on paper certainly helps. There's a lot of national team players who play for Persepolis, and I think probably the most important factor, the fact that the core of the team has been there for a long time. So you've got some main players like Erfan, Torabi, etc., who've been there for a while. So they not just they understand what it takes to win the league, but also making up that core of the team makes it easier for the new players to kind of settle in. But yeah, I'm keen to hear what you think, Erfan, in terms of the new managers coming in. How have they done? And do you think Sepahan in particular, should they be disappointed that maybe they didn't push Persepolis far enough to get that title?
Yeah, you're right. We did have a lot of better foreign coaches this season compared to previous seasons. Sepahan, who finished second, Jose Moraes, a very, very good coach. He coached Al Hilal before, and was Jose Mourinho's assistant numerous times before. So, and I wouldn't say they should be disappointed, but they should expect more next season, I think, because with the players they had, like Shahryar Moghanlu, Nur Afkan, Ramin Rezaeian, Melli's starting right back at the World Cup, I think they should have maybe at least tried to have won one cup like the Hazfi, but they didn't, sadly for them. But they do have a lot to look forward to next season. They also have a good management. They sign big players. They sign a lot of foreign players. And then Paco Gemes, you mentioned the tractor. He had, even though they finished fourth, I still think he had a very good season. Paco Gemes took over in the middle of the season after Korban Bordiov left. So I think he still did a good job with them. And I think they will do a lot better next season, even though they had a shocking loss to Esteghlal and at the end of the season, which was a 7-1 loss. I think maybe that was just because it was the end of the season. The players didn't really have much to play for, and even though it was a really, really big loss, I don't think it should affect what Paco Gemes has done throughout the past season. And then another one of the foreign coaches, Ricardo Sá Pinto. This one's a bit debatable. Sá Pinto has been limited, I would say, because he wasn't able to sign any players himself this season. When he joined Esteghlal at the beginning of the season, the transfer window was already done and all the players had already been signed. And then during the winter transfer window, Esteghlal had a transfer ban, so they weren't able to sign any players. I still think he's done a very good job with the players he's had. Finishing third is not usually something good for Esteghlal, but in a situation like this, I think it was something they should be proud of.
So where do you think they could have improved, certainly in terms of the squad? So if they didn't have that transfer ban, where would you have seen them reinforcing the squad?
That's a good question. First of all, I think that Esteghlal need a really good, a good midfielder. Right now, they have Ruzbe Cheshmi. He's still in Team Melli, and Arya Allahverdi, who's had a good end of the season. But they need that. They need a kind of playmaker position. They have needed one for years. I still don't know why they haven't signed anyone proper. They did try their luck with Azizbek Amanov, the Uzbek international last season, but that didn't work out for them. And then another one, the left back position has been a big problem in Esteghlal. Even though they have Jafar Salmani, who used to play in the Portuguese league, and also Abulfaz Jalali, who had a good stint at the World Cup. I think there's been problems with Abulfaz Jalali and the Esteghlal board. There's rumors that he's going to leave. And Jafar Salmani just hasn't been doing what he should be doing. And I think those are the two main positions that Esteghlal need to improve on.
Sorry, Arya, just before you move on to the next question, I also wanted to ask about Foolad, because I find them quite intriguing in terms of, you look at the squad and you look at what they've been through in the past 12 months, getting to the Champions League knockout stages and then Nekunam leaving just before, was it the Al Hilal game that he left just before?
Yeah.
And also, again, you look at the squad, they've got the likes of Dejaga, but also they had young, talented players such as Hazfi, who's now left to join Al Sadd. How do you rate their season, and how do you think Mansourian has done coming in? And do you expect big changes in the team or on the bench in terms of the technical staff going ahead into next season?
Yeah, Foolad, I don't think they had a very good season at all. First of all, when Javad Nekunam was there, they were getting the results against the big teams, but then they struggled a lot against the smaller sides. They beat Persepolis, they got a draw against Esteghlal, and they beat Sepahan as well, I believe. So they did well under Nekunam against big teams, but then they struggled against smaller sides. And then in the AFC Champions League, they got to the quarterfinals. Nekunam, I still don't know why he did what he did and left. Just 2 days, I think 48 hours before probably the biggest game of Foolad's history. And then Mansourian came in for the remainder of the league. I don't expect Mansourian to stay in Foolad at all. He's just not big enough for Foolad. Foolad will probably go for a foreign manager because Mansourian, even though he's gotten results in the Champions League before, he's just not a big manager. We saw, I think there was a clip from last season where Foolad scored against bottom of the league, Nafmar Suleiman, and he was celebrating way too much. So yeah, I don't think Mansourian will stay at all. And Foolad's season was not very good compared to the previous seasons. Last season they won the Super Cup against Persepolis. The previous season they won the Hazfi against Esteghlal. So they should be aiming a lot higher than I think it was 8th place finish this season.
Okay, let's move on to the Hazfi Cup then. You just spoke about it there. Of course, massive drama as usual, as per usual when it comes to Tehran clubs. Persepolis won it in extra time, 2-1. Talk us through the game, Erfan. Obviously, Murad Mand equalised in stoppage time, and then obviously they got the goal in extra time. So speaking to us about the game, how was it?
So the game, from the first minute, a lot of drama. Every referee decision was being protested by the players, the fans, the staff. It was crazy, but like I said, it's normal between the Tehran clubs. Torabi scored a very, very good goal just outside the box, and during the 25th minute, I believe it was. And then after that, especially during the second half, Esteghlal put on a lot of pressure. And then when all hope was lost, they scored off Hossein Moradmand header with Said Mehdi getting the assist from a free kick right side of the box. Very good header in the 90 plus 11th minute to take the game to extra time. Very unexpected. Everyone thought the game was over. But then that's where Sá Pinto, I don't know what happened exactly, but he got sent off by the referee. There are people are saying that he was throwing bottles of water back at the Persepolis fans because they were throwing that at him. I think that's very unprofessional of him.
Yeah, there was a video of it as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a video.
It did happen. It did happen.
It did happen, yeah. And even though the Persepolis fans started it, at the end, they're just fans. As a manager, you have to keep your cool. You have to be professional, and especially in that type of situation. I think he got a bit emotional. It got to him. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons Esteghlal didn't play as well in extra time. They kind of lost their confidence after that. And then Omid Ali Shah, the captain, scored directly from a free kick to give them the 2-1 win.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Hazfi Cup, I think is important for all teams to try and compete for it. When it gets to the final and you've got the two Tehran clubs in it, obviously the stakes go even higher. And then all on top of that, Persepolis trying to get a double. Also, if Esteghlal would have won, they would have also had a double because they won the Super Cup back in November. So it was a case of that as well, who gets double. So, you know, what does this mean then for Esteghlal? Does Sá Pinto keep his job as a result of this cup defeat, or is that still not certain? What do you make of it?
So it's been on the news recently that Sá Pinto and Esteghlal are still negotiating over a new contract. We still don't know for sure if he's staying or leaving. In my opinion, like I said, I feel like Sá Pinto was limited with the signings, with the the change of management in the season, because Esteghlal CEO changed the middle of this twice during the season. First of all, it went from Ajarlu to Fatullah Zadeh, and then now Hojat Karimi, who's the acting CEO. So a lot of changes during the season, and then the players hadn't been paid for months, so it did affect them a lot. But I think overall Sá Pinto should stay. I think it's good for Iranian football. He's a good coach, maybe a bit emotional, but he's a good coach. Hopefully he stays, but we're going to see what happens.
Well, I think a bit emotional is a bit of an understatement. I think it's
Understatement,
a
yeah.
little bit emotional, isn't he? I think it's from an outsider's perspective, not really much of a keen viewer of the Persian Gulf Pro League. When I see those kind of things, I don't like it personally. I don't think Sá Pinto has shown good professionalism since coming to Iran. Now that is part of his character. I understand that, but as a viewer myself, I don't like it. I'm not a Persepolis fan. I'm not an Esteghlal fan. I think everyone knows that very well now. But this is an ACM land top, not a Persepolis top. But I don't like it. I don't like seeing that. I think it's very disrespectful to the game, personally. I think I get it. It does fuel a little bit because obviously he is coaching a big club in Iran, and I think they want a passionate coach, but I just feel like it can be a bit too much. Sina, what do you make of it from an Esteghlal perspective? Do you like Sá Pinto? Do you want to stay on?
I think Erfan gave the Esteghlal perspective, but generally speaking, if you are a calm manager, Iran is not the place for you to manage. So, I mean, even at Esteghlal, you look at the previous foreign managers that they've had. Samachoni, again, was a very fiery character, although in a different way. I remember his outbursts in the press conference after, I can't even remember what game it was.
Yeah, the Moshi Sazi game, first game of the season.
And he was screaming and shouting in the press conference. Now, the points he was making were valid, but that's how you have to deal with it in Iran. I mean, we saw Kairoush for so many years fighting with everyone. You can't just be a quiet, calm figure on the touchline or in the press conferences and expect things to be normal. You have to fight for things, whether it's refereeing decisions, whether it's getting the transfers you want. It's almost like you're fighting on all fronts. Gol Mohammadi does the same thing. I agree that there has got to be a line you draw in terms of where that passion gets almost too aggressive, such as throwing bottles into the stand. I agree with you that that's a red line that shouldn't be crossed. But at the same time, I don't think we should take away the fire and the passion that the managers bring in, mainly because they do need it to be able to be successful. Gol Mohammadi, I'm pretty sure he's threatened to resign again, and as he does at the end of every season, after winning the league title as well. Well, not just the league title, the double. But that, again, if you were a really calm, collected character who would just accept what you've given, you wouldn't do that. People have to fight. They have different ways of showing that fight. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it.
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, let's move on a little bit. Shift our focus to the bottom of the table. Nafta Masjid Suleiman and Messi Kerman were relegated this season from the second division, or the Azerbaijan League. We had Shamsa Azar Qazvin and Esteghlal Khuzestan, who were the 2015-2016 champions, relegated a few years ago. What do you make of the dynamic, Erfan, in terms of them getting relegated and then promoted? What kind of news is there behind that?
Yeah, first off, let's start with the relegated teams, Naf Mash Suleiman and Mes Kerman. NAF Suleiman confirmed the relegation 2 weeks before the end of the season. They were expected to be relegated. They were bottom of the league for most of the season. I think this all comes down to bad management, because not only NAF Suleiman, but the other NAF team in Khuzestan as well, NAF Abadan, they suffered a lot from the management. They were barely getting any funding. So I think that if the NAFT company cannot support these clubs, and these clubs have a lot of fans, we've seen their stadiums get packed a lot. I think if they cannot support them financially, then they should maybe step down or sell the club, because it's sad to see that these two clubs were struggling for most of the season. And even Sanat Naft were about to be relegated, but then in the last game of the season, they won thanks to a Mamizada goal against Gol Gohar, and stayed up in the PGPL. And there's something I saw in the Sanat Naft games, which was really good to see, was Foolad fans coming down to support the Sanat Naft team. It's good to see the Khuzestan province supporting each other like this. And this wasn't the only example. Moving on to the Azadegan, Esteghlal Khuzestan, who not won the league but came second. In the last game of their season, we saw Sanat Naft fans and Foolad fans going down to the stadium to support them. It was really, really good to see these fans attend the games. And then the other team who got promoted from the Azadegan were Shams Azar Qazvin. We've never had a team from Qazvin in the PGPL. So it's nice to see teams from more unknown areas of Iran coming to the PGPL. They had a very good season. They dominated. I think they broke the points record for the Azadegan it was an 18 league team, but Shara Khodra withdrew at the beginning of the season, so 17 league team. So yeah, very good season by them. I'm happy to see them promoted along with the Esteghlal Khuzestan, or as people call them, the Leicester of Iran.
Yeah, and obviously Leicester's gone down to the championship now, so maybe they'll come back up again.
Maybe a different name would be better.
Okay, so moving on to the AFC Champions League, the 2023-2024 edition. Qualified teams, Sepahan we know are qualified for sure, Nassaji as well. Is that because they finished second in the
PGPL?
Yeah. No, sorry.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
is that the reason? No, because they didn't lose. Why are they qualified again? It's not Nassaji. Nassaji.
They won the Hazfi last season.
Oh, last season. That's right. That's
because
right.
There's been a shift in the AFC Champions League calendar before it went
right
from
So that's what. And obviously the other two are Esteghlal Persepolis. However, there is obviously a lot of news behind that, depending on if the two clubs receive or are granted AFC licenses to participate in the Champions League. If they're not given it, which we're still waiting on that news to come out, Tiraktor and Gold Gohar will get it. Of course, Mr. Afsan John finished above Gold Gohar in the table, but because Mr. Afsan didn't get their AFC license in time, Gold Gohar would qualify ahead of them because Mr. Afsan didn't get it. So a bit of a debacle there. Let's talk about it, Erfan. Take us through it then. What do you expect to see happen in the AFC Champions League?
Yeah, it's really complicated situations. Like you said, Nassaji and Sepahan are both qualified. Then the two Tehran clubs, it's not looking good for them. I can't lie. I think it's going to be a repeat of last season. Even though Persepolis have a slightly higher chance of getting the license, I'm still not sure what's going to happen.
What's the problem with the Erfan? What's happened? Why do you not get the AFC? What are they not doing?
What is required to get the licenses? And yeah, as Arya said, what are they missing?
Yeah, there's many requirements. The most important thing is the club has to be professional. Now, what that means is that the club shouldn't have any debt, any major debts, or not even minor debts. And then the clubs can't have the same ownership, which is one of the important things here in this case. Esteghlal and Persepolis, as we know, they're both owned by Vezir Varzish, or Iran's sports ministry. And then another one of the things is the clubs should have youth teams. They should be registered under the AFC. And but the main two problems here would be the first 2 points, and also the stadium. Azadi Stadium, even though it's Iran's biggest stadium and it has the biggest capacity, it does still have infrastructure issues that they should fix. So yeah, the main issues are the ownership ones, which they're saying that they have fixed by giving each club to different ministries, but I'm not sure if that's going to work because they tried the same thing last season, but as we all know, they both failed to obtain the license. Debts, Persepolis don't have any debts right now. Esteghlal don't have any debts right now as well, but Esteghlal failed to pay Andres Ramachoni's debt on time, so I think that might cause them some issues. And then, yeah, if Esteghlal and Persepolis both get eliminated, both don't get the license, like you said, then Tractor and Golgohar would qualify instead. But if one of them qualifies, let's say Persepolis gets the license, then Tractor would go to the AFC Champions League playoff, playing Sharab Al Ahli.
You know, this is one of the things that I've been kind of passionate about on social media is about how Persepolis, Esteghlal aren't really run as football clubs. You know, they're run as very much two football teams who compete in the Persian Gulf Pro League and in the Champions League. That's it. They're not really run as a football club in the sense that they don't have a lot of the things a club would have. Infrastructure, as you mentioned, their own stadium. It's not their stadium. They don't own it. You know what I mean? They don't have real youth system, no grassroots system, no women's team. You know, a lot of things that a club should have. And okay, I get it. As you mentioned, they're owned by the government. They're not necessarily getting the amount of funding maybe they want to get. But the reality is they are the two biggest clubs in Iran. And they always say it. They always are happy to mention it, that they are the two biggest clubs in Iran. But the problem is they don't actually act accordingly. So I'm not surprised they can't get an AFC license to compete in the Champions League. I'm not surprised because they aren't run like a club should be. So that's my thoughts on it.
It's not the club's fault, though, is it?
No, it's not the club's fault. It's not the club's fault, but it does set a precedent, doesn't it? You know, it's not a surprise. You know, it's not a surprise that they can't get it.
No, it's not surprising, but I think it's important to distinguish between the fact that the clubs are hostages and they're being abused, both clubs.
Exactly.
By how they're run.
I think the ministry treats the clubs more as a way to control the fans rather than clubs. So
there is so many deals being done behind the scenes. Persepolis sold some of the kind of sponsorship deals to one company for a certain amount of money across 2 or 3 years, which meant then any earnings Persepolis would have from marketing would just go to that particular company. These are all the deals behind the scenes. It's just kind of taking advantage of the clubs, and it's not the fans' fault, and it's not the club's fault either. And although I 100% agree with you, Arya, and I think everyone has a responsibility to make sure that the clubs behave as they should, as two of the, not just the biggest clubs in Iran, but two of the biggest clubs in Asia. But the reality is neither of them at fault, and neither of them have any control over what happens to them. Again, just to finish up on this point, they've been talking about privatizing the clubs for the last 15 years. Every single year there is something new that comes up, but there is no ending to it. And as Erfan said, they're just kind of using it to control the people.
Okay, so quickly moving on to the Women's League as well. Bam Khatoon, who are the champions of the league this season. They are the most successful team in the country when it comes to league titles. They won the league this season. The top goal scorer for the league was Afsane Chadfenur with 16 goals. And yeah, I think Bam Khatoon are pretty much just destroying the opposition at this moment. Sepahan are the only kind of team that are kind of challenging them a little bit, but overall Bam Khatoon seem to be running really well as a club, and seem to be really just bringing in the best players. So hopefully they get challenged a little bit more in the next couple of years, because it will be good to see them, being challenged. What do you think about Erfan? Have you got any things to add?
Yeah, Bam Khatun, they've won the league yet again this season. And the player I'd like to mention who was playing in Bam Khatun right now is Negin Zandi. Some of you might have heard of her. She actually played for both the Iranian U20 team and the senior team in the space of a few weeks. She's a really good talent for Iran standards. And she actually scored Iran's only goal in the Olympic qualifying tournament against Myanmar. We drew that game 1-1, and that was enough to take us to the next round. Yeah, she's only 19 years old, and to be doing what she's doing is really good.
Yeah, brilliant player. Okay, come on, a new brilliant player, kind of same height as well. They're both quite small, players height-wise. Mehdi Ghayedi had a great season, revival for him, really much. After going to the UAE, not doing well at all there, and now he's playing back in Esteghlal. He could go back to the UAE if not mistaken. He's on loan at the end of the season, but. Scored 12 goals this season, challenged the top goal scorer Shahriar Moghonlu with 13 goals very closely. Erfan, you're wearing the Esteghlal top. You talk about him.
Yeah, Ghayedi had a very, very good season, more in the second half of the season than the first. Because in the first half of the season, he only scored 1 goal on his return against Malavan. Then the other 11 came in the second half of the season. And not only goals, but also a lot of assists, 6 assists, including penalties won in the last 13 games for him. I think he's been one of, if not the best players in the league this year. And he should get another shot at Team Melli, and I think he will in the upcoming Kappa Championships. And Mehdi Ghayedi, a lot of talk on him over the last few years. There was that really good 2021 season, which got him the move to Shahab Al Ahli, but then he was very disappointing last season. And then there's been, like you said, people have been saying that he could return to Shahab Al Ahli. I think his loan will either get extended or he will sign permanently for Esteghlal again.
What do you think went wrong for him at Shahab Al Ahli?
I think what went wrong for him was the coach Mehdi Ali, who actually has some Iranian background in him, didn't know how to use him, you could say, because when he first came in to Shahab Al Ahli, on his debut when he came on as a substitute against Sharjah, he did very well, contributing to 4 goals, and he scored that last-minute winner as well. But then he just didn't know how to use him. He was playing him out of position. He played him as a striker a few times, and Ghayedi is not a striker, he's a winger. And it wasn't just Ghayedi who was playing badly that season, it was the whole Shahab Al Ahli team. I'm not only a PGPL fan, I also follow the UAE League. I watch all of Shahab Al Ahli's games. And it wasn't just Ghayedi who was bad that season. And this season, we saw how good Shahab Al Ahli actually were without them.
Now that I think is it Yardim now the current manager?
Yeah, Leonardo Jardim. But then they're saying that he's gonna go to Al Rayyan now. So
I was going to say under him, could we see Ghayedi potentially going back and getting almost a fresh start? But then if he's leaving for Al Rayyan, then I guess not.
And I don't think so.
No, he played quite well for them though this season, didn't he? He had a quite decent season so hopefully see what happens. Okay, coming back to another player's revived a little bit his career since the World Cup. Ramin Rezaeian, obviously for Sepahan. He was given that recall by Carlos Queiroz. I think from there onwards, he's kind of just really pushed on and became a really key player for Sepahan this season. At right back. What do you kind of make of him? Obviously, he's a little bit older now. He didn't have a very successful career in Europe. He was playing Qatar for a long time as well. What do you make of him now this season?
Ramin Rezaeian, he had an amazing season under Jose Moraes. Not only a good defender, not only getting assists, but he got 7 goals as well, which is really good for a right back. He was on the top scorers list as well, along with his teammate Omid Nurafkan. And Ramin, there's this question that has always been around, like you said, should he still be starting at Team Melli? And my answer to that question is yes, I think he should be, even though we have Sadegh Muharremi playing in the Croatian league, Dinamo Zagreb. He won the league yet again. Congrats to him. I still think Ramin Rezaeian is better than him for Team Melli at least. Maybe something else like club football, but for Team Melli, Ramin has always showed up when it matters. He played well at the World Cup. That game against Wales was really good. He played well in 2018, and this season, he just doesn't look like he's gonna stop, is he?
I think that's a good point. I think Muharremi is really doing well at club level. He's playing regularly at Dinamo Zagreb now, but Ramin seems to just have this international form that just can always turn it on for the national team. Right, come on then. Let's give me your team of the season, Erfan. You got one there for us ready?
Yeah. So my team of the season, and this is actually I think similar to, if not the same as the one that Metrica pulled out. I'm not sure, but it's similar to that. In goal, Algirza Band. Without him, I don't think Persepolis would have been champions. Then we've got the 3 at the back. Ramin Rezaeian on the right side, Omin Nurafkan on the left, and George Gvelesiani as centre back. Midfield
Called up
4.
to the Georgian national team as well. Recently.
Very,
for the
I'm very
first
happy
time.
for him.
Very strange he wasn't actually part of the Georgian national team in the past. I thought I was quite surprised. He's 32 years old. I thought he would actually have been at least played for them 1 or twice. He hasn't played for them before. It's interesting.
Yeah, never.
The majority of his career he's been in Iran.
I know, but he's been very successful. He's done really well. I'm surprised even as like a 4th choice centre back, he wasn't ever considered for them. But it is what it is. He's in now, so.
Yeah, he played at Zobahan, he played at Sepahan, and now at Persepolis. He's had a good career in Iran. Moving on to the midfield of 4. On the left side, we have Mehdi Torabi. On the right side, Mohammad Mohibbi. And then on the central midfielders, 2 players from Tractor, Ricardo Alves, the top assister this season, and Reza Asedi, who's shifted from that midfielder position to a striker mostly, but he has also played down the middle. And then 3 up front, Reza Shekari from Gogohar, Mehdi Ghayedi, and Shahriar Moghanlou up top.
I think Shekari is such an interesting shout there because he has really kind of turned it around. Obviously Rubin Kazan, obviously for a long time, and then he went to Persepolis, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah, he went there for a bit, but
didn't really get game time, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, sorry, he went to Tractor.
No, Tractor Sazi. He went to Tractor Sazi.
And then he didn't really have a good time there. That was the
injury problems and
the same season that obviously Dejaga and Mahaso Chojori were there and they were playing ahead of him. And now he's gone to Golgohar and he's had a fantastic season. He's part of the national team as well. What do you make of Ricardo Alves? Any more other foreign players that have done well this season?
Yeah, Ricardo Alves was one of the best signings of the season. He has 13 assists, I think, which makes him the top assister of the season. Even though he didn't get an assist for the last 5 or 6 games of the season, and it's not just assists that he has to this game. The passes that he plays for Tractor, maybe down the right side, down the left-hand side, it's helped him a lot through the season. It's gotten them a lot of goals. And then other foreign players that have succeeded, well, Gvelesiani, we mentioned him. Locadia, who left because of some issues. And then Kevin Yanga, he was Esteghlal top scorer last season. Also a lot of goals this season, but this season he played mainly as a right back. Last season he was playing more up front since Farhad Majidi played with a 3 at the back formation. And Yanga, unfortunately for him, he got an injury in the Tehran derby, not this one, but the previous one in the league. And then he missed the rest of the season. It looks like he's going to stay with Esteghlal for next season as well, so that's good to see. It's been a while since we've seen a PGPL team keep a single foreign player for more than 2 or 3 seasons. And then some of the other foreign players, Jefferson Bahia, the Brazilian, he played a lot for Mesraf Zanjan. He was key to their success this season. And then who else? Rafael Silva for Esteghlal, the center back. He was really good as well. And the Sepahan, they signed a few foreigners, like Katatau, who joined in January, but they've all left the team because they weren't as good as the Iranian players in the team, to be honest.
What about the Spanish boys at Foolad?
Oh yeah, we had Alegria, I think one of them was, and then there was Roberto Torres. Torres did good for one game. He scored 1 goal against Persepolis, then he just left. I don't know where he just didn't show up at all. It was really weird. And same with Allegri, he just scored 1 goal, and I don't know what this means. This can mean 2 things. This can mean that either PGPL is improving because we have players from La Liga who are failing to do well in Iran, or this just means that the quality is so bad that even these really good players don't know what to do.
What does it take to maybe even neutralize a guy like Ricardo Alves, do you think? Give him a passport like Edinho.
No.
Like Edinho a few years ago tried to get in the national team. It didn't happen. You never know. Maybe see what happens with that. But we do need midfielders in the national team, so I would be happy to have
We
him.
do.
I'm not a fan.
Wouldn't mind them.
I'm not a fan of neutralizing players, but that would be one player I would neutralize if I had to. All right, so just quickly in the last few topics to finish off then, in the last couple of notes. So stadiums in the country, fuller, obviously after COVID, of course, very much fuller, but just in general, fuller. What do you make of it?
We've seen full crowds in Mazandaran and Tehran, especially in Tabriz and Esfahan. Also in Ahvaz, we've seen it in the Foolad versus the Esteghlal game. Now, the 2 main ones I want to focus on are Sepahan and Esfahan and the Tractor in Tabriz. Especially towards the end of the season, we saw them filling up their stadiums a lot more. Sepahan did something really nice. They offered free tickets for their last 3 home games. It was for everyone, and I think that's a really good sort of advertisement for their games. We saw the beautiful scenes. We saw how it encouraged the players. They played much better under the fans, and the return of fans not only is good, obviously, for the pictures, for all that, but it's also good for the quality of the league. We saw the league improve a lot since fans have returned, a lot more goals, better quality of football. So it's very good to see what we saw.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Appreciate it. But one thing that's been missing, it's not just about full fans, is women's supporters. That's probably the only thing that we can see as a negative. In that, of course, it's full stadiums, but they're not full stadiums with female supporters in there. Not as many anyway. What's the update on that? There's always an update, isn't there? There's not much of an update though.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
there's Mehdi Taj did say in a recent interview that the problem has been sorted, has been fixed, and we will see women in stadiums soon. But that was kind of like a month ago, and nothing has happened yet. I think it was mentioned somewhere that the Azadi Stadium, Sepahan Stadium, and Golgohar Stadium can host women till now. But then again, we didn't see anything. So I don't know what's up with that. There have been rumors that these 3 stadiums, and I think Tractor Stadium, will host women, but in a segregated side, so on a different side than the men. They will host them at the beginning of next season. It's still better than nothing, so I hope that this happens, because it's sad that, it's been mentioned, it's been a hot topic in Iranian football for a long time now. It's sad that women can't attend games. They should be able to. It's nothing bad, it's nothing wrong, and it's everyone's rights to attend football games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we agree on that. 100%. Erfan, I think Sina, you'd agree, has been absolutely fantastic today with the amount of knowledge that he offers this episode.
I've got one final question for him.
Go on.
So,
Yeah.
just a couple of things. Obviously, Farhad Majidi at Etihad Kalba. I want to see how he's getting on, and also with Nekunan being out of work, and possibly, let's say, if Gol Mohammadi does leave Persepolis, with now that the issues with regards to the UAE league have been removed, especially with the changing in the names of the league, and obviously with Ghayedi and Nurullah playing there recently, and the relationship our players have had previously in Qatar, can we possibly see Nekunan or Gol Mohammadi managing there? Would the clubs be open to that? And also, if that was to happen, how well do you think they would do?
Yeah, first of all, Farhad Majidi. He's gotten not really good, but I say average results with Etihad Kalba. Etihad Kalba, they're not one of the bigger sides in the UAE. They're usually one of the favorites to get relegated or finish bottom of the league. He finished 8th with them. It was pretty consistent. I think he stayed in that 8th position since the beginning of the second half of the season. I'd say it's a good start for him in the UAE. He's continuing next season as well. He's staying there. I hope he does well. I hope he can maybe challenge for a top 5 spot, or even maybe try to go all in the cup and get an AFC Champions League spot. And then the other thing you mentioned, Yahya Gol Mohammadi. Yeah, there's been rumors of him leaving Persepolis again, like at the end of every season. There's also been rumors of him coaching a team in the UAE, actually. Emirates Club, who have been promoted to the UAE Pro League this season. There's been rumors that they've contacted him for taking charge, for him to take charge of the team. But also
we had a lot of players that used to play for Emirates Football Club.
Yeah,
like Saemian, I think Saemian was there.
Exactly. Before the naming disputes, there had a lot of Iranian players playing there, not only in Emirates, but in the whole UAE Pro League. We even saw Masoud Shajai and Nekunan there. And I'm not sure about Nekunan. I think he's still just waiting it out. Maybe he wants that job opportunity in Qatar. But yeah, I could see it happening. I could see Gol Mohammadi following in Farhad Majidi's footsteps and moving on to the UAE Pro League after winning the PGPL.
We have one fan question I forgot to mention before we finish the episode. That fan question comes from Sahfutbol, SAHFUTBOL on Twitter. They're asking regarding PGPL players and especially the central midfielders, who has kind of earned the right to play for the national team, or even just get a call up or start even potentially for the national team from central midfield. We saw in the squad list called up by Qalanoui. There's some new players like Arya Allahverdi, Mehrana Ahmadi, Ramin Rezaeian, Imani, and of course, there's Mohammad Karimi as well, who played against Kenya, if I'm not mistaken. So what do you make of it? Is there any kind of new central midfielders? Because that is a position, as I mentioned, that is massively just low on talent in the national team.
Yeah, well, first, Ricardo Alves, sadly we can't see him at Team Melli. But then Qolamers of Sabet Imani, he's been a player I've been following for a while now. And I was kind of shocked to see him in that list. I'm very happy for him. And I think he does deserve it, but I didn't think he'd really be seen because he plays for a team like Pekan. But then he's not the only one who got called up. We saw that player from Malawan as well getting called up. Mohammad Karimi also, he's been very good for Sepahan this season, better than last season. Before that, he was kind of in the shadow of Yasin Salmani, as a talent. Yasin Salmani, the big talent, everyone was looking at him, everyone was focusing on him. But this season, it's kind of been Mohammad Karimi. And another player I'd like to mention is Arya Allahverdi. He was getting a lot of hate by Esteghlal fans a few seasons ago. But last season he went to Foolad. He won the Super Cup with them. He was really good with them. Played in the Champions League. And this season under Sá Pinto, he's been very good. He scored a few goals, a few good goals at the end of the season. Some assists as well. I think he was the first Esteghlal player ever to get assists in 4 or 5 games in a row. So we don't know still if he's been called up to Team Melli or not. He might be in the camp because the Esteghlal and Persepolis players are joining a bit later on. Hopefully he's there. I'd like to see him both as an Esteghlal fan and as a Team Melli fan. I think he can help the team a lot.
Erfan, I appreciate it, my friend. Really great insight into all things domestic football and continental football in Asia. I think we've covered pretty much everything, if I'm not mistaken. Anything we've missed out, guys? I don't think so. I think it's been great. Sina, again, I appreciate you coming on as well. We will be covering the Persian Gulf Pro League again as the season starts. We will bring Erfan back on again for sure for that. Be sure to check out our previous episode where we covered all things regarding the national team, the group stage matches against Palestine, Hong Kong, and UAE in the Asian Cup. And we will be back hopefully soon in the next month or so. We've got a few plans regarding interviews, and we've got a special couple of things that we're going to try and plan this summer. So we'll come up with that as soon as possible. Again, appreciate your time, Erfan. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you again, Arya, for having me on. Always good to be on here. Thank you guys for listening again.
Thanks a lot, Sina, as well.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.
This is Kat, and you're listening to Bezan, and I hope you continue listening to their amazing podcast. Thank you all for the support. Love you, Bezan.